transportation experience ever.
We've arrived at the coordinates. My sensors pick up a lot of life forms.
They better not be alien life forms. You with me? Facts?
I'm always with you. Let's go.
Visitors of fact, please welcome to the stage, Alfred Enoch.
Hello. Hello. Hi. I'm slightly thrown. It's very nice to see you all. Do I get to sit on one of these boxes? That's good. Hello. Goodness, what an entrance. That was quite dramatic. I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. Hello, thank you all for coming. How are you all doing? Is everyone well? Good, very good. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to take your questions and talk about anything you all want to talk about. So, I suppose I will hand over. I can see there are some questions already. Hello?
Hello. I don't really have a question for you, but I wanted to do something because I think there are a lot of wizards here in the audience, and we know our beloved Robbie Coltrane died, so I was hoping we could do a one-up for him right here, right now.
I think that's a good suggestion. If people have brought wands, that might be a nice way of paying tribute to Robbie Coltrane, who passed away recently. So if everyone would be up for doing that, I think that would be really good.
I even have a one for you if you want.
Oh yes, well, thank you very much. Oh, this is, I've been told this is my wand, so that is just as well. Okay, yes, I suppose let's do that. Nice one. I suppose a little round of applause I think would also probably be fitting. I thought that was a really lovely suggestion and just a little observation, I suppose. I think one of the things that I find really lovely about coming to conventions is the sense of community and people bonding and people meeting and people exchanging ideas about things that they love and care about. And so I think it's a very fitting place to pay tribute to an actor who is part of a world which is dear to so many people, and I know to so many people here. So anyway, thank you for that suggestion. I thought that was beautiful. Anyway, sorry, yes, there's another question. Hello.
Hi, my question is, what would you do for work if you weren't an actor?
What would I do for work if I wasn't an actor? Goodness. I've been an actor since I was 11 years old. So that is 2/3 of my life. So I haven't really had to imagine anything else, but I will try for you. In fact, I'll give you a little story about something I almost did. I went to university and I studied Spanish and Portuguese literature. And as with a lot of people, I suppose, who do a humanities degree, they either teach what they studied, or they forget about it and do a job that has nothing to do with that. That's often what happens, at least in England. As with many friends of mine who study things like history or English literature or languages, they all go and become corporate lawyers because you can make a living doing that, and you know, you can't really make a living saying what you think about 16th century Spanish literature, or it's much harder. But when I finished university, I was in touch with one of my teachers from school who told me that there was a vacancy at the school that I went to just for a term, because one of the teachers maybe was ill or was having an operation, and he asked me and a very good friend of mine, we both studied Spanish together, if we wanted to take the teaching job. And part of me was really tempted because I liked my teacher and I got on with him, and we had quite a fun time at school, and I thought I could just go teach Spanish to essentially people who were, you know, 3-4 years younger than me. I'm not going to be a disciplinarian, I'll just sit around and we'll do some Spanish. But I didn't, because I had a job and I thought I'm not gonna not do a play because I'm teaching kids Spanish. So I would like to think maybe I would have been a teacher, but I've thought about it since, and I'm not patient enough. So although I'd be qualified in terms of the fact that I have a language degree, I'm not qualified in terms of patience. Basically, this is a long-winded way of saying, I don't know. I'm very grateful I get to make a living from acting, because I really haven't found much else that I think anyone would pay me for. So, but I worked as a tour guide for 5 months when I lived in Spain, in a city called Seville in the south of Spain. And I enjoyed doing that. I think I did a good tour. So maybe I'd be a tour guide. Thank you. Hello.
Hello. What was the funniest thing that happened on set of Harry Potter?
I was just saying earlier how my memory is very bad. What was the funniest thing that happened on the set of Harry Potter? I mean, it was 10 years. It would be very difficult for me to say the funniest thing, but I'll say something that comes to mind. On the last film, as it was all coming to an end, we were thinking, how do we mark the end of this amazing experience? For me, I had been doing those films for 10 years, since I was 11 years old. A lot had changed over the time. And it was a place that was really important to me, and people that were very dear to me, and I thought, what's a good way of marking the end of this extraordinary experience? So I decided it would be fun to run naked through the Great Hall. I thought that would be a fitting way of doing that. So I was going to streak through the Great Hall. And I sort of tried to talk a few other people to do it with me, but essentially they just came along to see if I would do it, but they weren't really going to do it. And we got to the Great Hall, and it was locked, and we were like, they always leave it open at the back, but they'd locked it. Well, like, maybe someone had heard about my plan and they didn't want me to embarrass myself. But the good news is I'm very determined when it comes to embarrassing myself. I'm very good at it. So I thought, can't do it in the Great Hall, I'll go for the Ministry of Magic. So I went for the Ministry of Magic, and I thought, I'm going to take my clothes off and streak naked through the Ministry of Magic. That would be nice. If that's what you're into, it happens that it is what I'm into. And as I was taking my clothes off, in one of the alcoves, you know, where I think it's where you arrive if you've taken flu powder and you So I'm in one of the alcoves, just sort of taking my clothes off, and everyone's like, "You're really going to do it?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to do it. Shut up, don't draw any attention." And I've got my clothes in a little bundle, and then a security guard starts coming up, and then I'm like, "Oh no, so I'm like trying to go alcove to alcove to put my clothes back on. I never did it. It was embarrassing. It was funny for the people who were with me laughing at my embarrassment, so that's why I've shared that with you and decided to make that public. So that's good. I'll regret that in the morning. Thank you. You're very supportive. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Hello.
Hello. My question is, who was your favorite character in Harry Potter?
My favourite character in Harry Potter. I almost think this must be a boring answer, because isn't he everyone's favourite character? Probably not, because, you know, there are lots of opinions, but Snape. Snape is fantastic. I mean, in my opinion, I'm like, obviously the best character. Obviously the best part. Alan Rickman was amazing, especially in that last film, as you kind of... I just remember coming out of the film and being like, well, that's what that's about, isn't it? It's literally the film. Let's hear about Snape. That's the best thing in it. I think the story's amazing. It's moving. It's heartwarming. Alan Rickman plays the parts so brilliantly. Snape is my favourite character. What's your favourite character?
Dumbledore.
Dumbledore. Good. I also like how I said, surely everyone's favourite character. You were like, not mine, Dumbledore. So I respect that. That's good. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you.
Nice. Hello.
Hi, I'm Joy. Welcome to Belgium.
Hi, Joy. Thank you very much.
I hope you already had a good stay here.
I'm having a lovely time. It's a lovely city.
My question is, who in the cast of Harry Potter was the funniest, or the pranker, or anything?
everyone was badly behaved, really. When I think back of it, I mean, I say badly behaved, as in everyone was like playing jokes and misbehaving and doing naughty things we shouldn't have done, probably. And so when I think back on it, I think how patient everyone else was with us, because, you know, you had a squad of kids just running around, kind of causing havoc and like entertaining themselves and, you know, getting in the way of a shooting day. Now, having worked as an adult and understanding how many moving parts go together to make a film, to make something come together, especially on that scale. You know, imagine when we were doing Great Hall scenes, we had one Great Hall scene in the second film where Lockhart and Snape duel. And that took 3 weeks to shoot. You know.
Wow.
I mean, exactly. I did that. I just did a film like a month or so ago. We finished. We shot it for 6 weeks. That one scene would have taken half of the shoot. I mean, but it takes that much time because, you know, there are 400 plus supporting artists. There's like 40 cast. You know, you've got the great and the good of British theatre and film, sort of all basically standing watching for 3 weeks. You've got coverage everywhere. You've got how many cameras. You've got flames coming out of those little, you know, flame bowls in the Great Hall that like hang from the side. There's so many elements, and there's a stunt. So it's really difficult to organise and make the whole thing work and come together. And then you have a lot of children misbehaving. So I always look back on that and I think everyone was really patient and supportive and lovely with us. I mean, who were the worst behaved? Who was the fun? I mean, and genuinely people were, because we had to do something called tutoring, right? So we had to do our schoolwork during the day. So we would just do things like, we're meant to have a 15-minute break. Obviously, let's wait for 10 minutes and then like run off so they can't find us and we can get another half an hour. But the implications for a day of shooting, when it's law that everyone has to do 3 hours, but at the same time as getting everyone to do 3 hours of tutoring, you have to film a massive scene, you know, a huge. But we would all do things like bunk off, like wind up the teachers, like play pranks on each other. I mean, it was, no one was squeaky clean.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hello.
I was wondering if you could invent a spell for something you would use every day, what would it be and why?
It would be the ability to stop time.
Okay.
And actually sort of, I know that's sort of maybe sounds a bit like a time turner, but I don't mean going back, I mean literally, basically to sort of control, to elongate, like a more comprehensive time turner. So for example, this morning I was running late and I was like, oh, I've only got a bit of time for, and I'm always running late, I'm a disorganized person. So I would be like, oh, pause, give myself enough time to do that, or pause, I'm gonna sleep for another 3 hours.
Yeah, seems
and
nice.
then, can you imagine, how good would that be?
Yeah.
It'd be great. So anyway, and then if you could also go backwards and forwards. I mean, for example, again, it's a beautiful city. Another thing I'd do, I'd be like, rewind 500 years to see the city 500 years ago, or whenever at the height of the cloth trade. You know, that would be, I like my history, so I would be into that as well. So I think something that would give me a sort of remote control level of precise control of time.
What would the spell be called, like?
Great question. Tempus fugit. How's that for a bad Latin joke? For anyone who doesn't know, that means time flies in Latin. So that's
Thank you.
Embarrassing that I've said that. Thank you. That's a good question. Hello.
Hi. I was wondering, imagine you, not your character, but you had a big bag of galleons and you walk into Diagon Alley and you go to the joke shop of Fred and George. What would be the first thing that you bought?
Ooh, Fred and George's joke shop. God. I mean, I don't know if they'd have it, but I imagine they should have.
You can imagine also.
Everything. Okay, I would say something that enables me. This is partly because I think this would be a good joke, but also it would be useful for me. something that would give me the ability to perfectly impersonate someone's voice, because you could cause a lot of havoc doing that. Yeah. But also that would be useful for my job, because every now and then I have to do an accent and I have to spend a lot of time learning it, and I was like, it'd be very handy if I could just do it. It'd be great. So there would be there would be a recreational and a professional consideration coming into play then.
That's a very good answer.
Thank you. Let me know if they make one.
I don't think they have, but
if you hear about it,
it's an idea for the future.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Hello.
Hi. So I went to the Warner Bros. Studio tours for the first time this year, and
sorry, could you say that again?
I went to the Harry Potter studio tour in London for the first time this year, and I was absolutely blown away by literally every set. So how was it for you working on those sets in real life?
It was wonderful. I mean, let me ask you a question first. Sorry, did you enjoy it?
I very much did. I
it's
was
beautiful,
in shock
isn't it?
for 4 hours.
Really? Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I went to see it when they opened the studio tour. This is in London, where we filmed the films, or in one of the studio is a big complex called Leavesden Studios, and there was this building called the Flight Shed, because the thing used to be a factory for making airplanes, and the Flight Shed, as it kind of implies, I think, is when they put the planes before they took off or something like that. No, I don't know, I suppose that's what I assume. But so we would shoot some things in the Flight Shed. So for example, in the third film, we shot, no, I tell a lie, it's the fourth film. You know when we're on the pontoons, when Harry gets the gillyweed, is that the right name? That is the right name. Have I remembered that? I've remembered that. Gillyweed? That's what it's called, isn't it, that gives him the gills. And he does that sort of underwater challenge in the Goblet of Fire in the Triwizard Tournament. There's a scene where we don't know if it's worked or not, and it looks like he's drowning, and then, you know, we're on those little pontoons and we sort of cheer when he comes out. We shot that in the Flight Shed. We shot the kind of stand scenes for the Quidditch match in the first film in the Flight Shed. So we shot a lot of stuff there. But I went back to see the studio tour. They sort of invited us when they opened it. And it was amazing. I mean, it was so well done. I thought it wouldn't necessarily be that interesting for me, because I thought I was there. It was 10 years. This is just going to show me stuff that I've spent a lot of time seeing. But they did such a good job in making it not only a sort of testament to the creativity and the work that went into like making those films, but also a kind of behind-the-scenes look at what it is to make a film on that kind of scale, and all the different departments. And it gave credit to so many departments that you don't maybe always hear about or don't think about, because you see this seemingly fully realized thing on the screen, and you don't stop to think someone has built every little bit of set, or someone has researched that, or that's visual effects, or that's special effects, and that's costume, and that's hair, and it all comes together. So I found it really beautiful from the perspective of giving the credit to everyone who put their work and their artistry in it. And that beautiful, for me, in a way, the most beautiful bit was the room with all the wands. At the end of the exhibit, they have a room with all these wand boxes, and they have the name of everyone who worked on the films. So I just spent ages just looking for people's names and going, oh, I haven't seen them in a long time, you know. So it was a really lovely way to give credit to that. So, sorry, just a way of saying it was beautiful to see that. But also, I suppose I've answered your question, because it was a wonderful experience, and I suppose I was moved in the way that I was because I'd had that experience, and I love that it lets other people in. I love that it enables you to go and see where we filmed it and learn a bit about how we did it and see it from the other side. So yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. I was very grateful to be part of it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello. What inspires you to? What inspired you to become an actor?
What inspired me to become an actor? My father's an actor. And I grew up either watching plays that he had done, but that he was doing, obviously, because the play's alive, or watching films that he had done in the past. So I was grew up surrounded by my dad's work, and it seemed to me two things. Firstly, that looks like fun, And it felt like it fit with all sorts of things I was interested in. You know, I loved reading, and I have a brother and 2 sisters, but they're much older than me. So I sort of, at home, I was kind of an only child, so I did a lot of reading and I suppose a lot of play on my own and imagination, and it felt like acting had to do with all of those things. I liked the idea of being someone else, you know, living a different story, seeing the world through someone else's eyes. That was all exciting. And I had an example of what it was because my dad was an actor, so I got to see it up close, and that kind of awoke that interest and kind of deepened that interest. The other thing is that for most of my childhood, my mum's a doctor, she's a public health doctor. My mum would be off, you know, working, and she'd go and do a project in Brazil or Mozambique or Angola, and she'd be doing all sorts of important things to do with maternal health and medical demography. I think it's awful. She's my mum, I don't know anything about it. And my dad mostly would wake up in the morning, read, eat lunch, and then have a nap. And I thought, that looks quite good. So if you can make a living doing that, that would suit me too. So the combination of the two things kind of put paid to it. And that's kind of the life. You know, often I get to have a nap in a day, and I'm old, I'm not like you. I need a nap. If I have a rest after I've had a meal, I'm better for it. So those were kind of the things. But one of the first things I remember seeing, just quickly, was my dad did a production of Henry V, the Shakespeare play, at a theatre called the Globe, Shakespeare's Globe in London, which is an extraordinary theatre built in the way, sort of to the design that they made Elizabethan theatres at the time. It's an incredible space, and as a kid I also liked history, and I remember walking into this building which was constructed with the same materials in the same way, and it was like stepping into the past. And I saw this play, which was, you know, 400 odd years old. And my dad was in it, so I had a connection to it, and I just thought, what a magical transformation that has happened. This building and this storytelling has taken me somewhere else. And so that was a real concrete moment where I was like, I saw him up there and I thought, I want to do that. Oh yeah. Thank you for your question. Hope that answers it. Hello.
Hi. My question is, what's your favorite character on How to Get Away with Murder?
Who's my favourite character on How to Get Away with Murder? For anyone who doesn't know, How to Get Away with Murder is an American television show that I did for however many, for several years. How to Get Away with Murder, who's my favourite character? I don't know, I've actually never been asked that question. It's got to be Annalise, doesn't it? Annalise is the most interesting character. I mean, Annalise Keating is the kind of lead character in this television show, and she's played by a wonderful, wonderful actor called Viola Davis, who I'll imagine most of you, if not all of you, will have heard of. And she's this sort of morally questionable, but ultimately likable, and most importantly, I think, compelling character. I think people talk a lot about likable characters, and they sort of, often when you're sort of creating something, or writers are talking about a project, I'm worried, is the character too unlikable, or you can't put that on, the character's not likable. And I sort of think, from my perspective at least, and maybe I'm different to a lot of people on this, I don't so much mind if I like the character or don't like the character. I don't have to go for a drink with them. I just want to be interested in them. And I think that character, Annalise Keating, is very, very interesting. In a way also, because of the things she does which are unlikable, because she behaves badly. That's part of what is compelling. So yeah, I'll go with Annalise Keating. Who's your favourite character from How to Get Away with Murder?
My favourite character is, Wes and
Good answer.
Annalise Keating.
For anyone who doesn't know, that's the character that I played, so that was points for that one. Thank you. Now you can give your real answer. Who's your real favourite character?
Wes.
Okay, great, even better. Double points, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello.
Hi. I was wondering, have you ever done the Harry Potter quiz? And if you have, what was the outcome?
Oh God, what was the outcome?
What house were you?
Oh, what? How?
Yeah.
You mean the sorting hat thing?
Yeah,
yes, I
sorting
did.
hat.
Sorry, I thought you meant just like a general quiz about my knowledge. What was the outcome? Do you know enough? I'm like, oh gosh. I was like, this is not the room to say the outcome was bad, is it? I was a Gryffindor. I was a Gryffindor. Typecast. I was typecast in the films. Yes, you know what? Before I even did the quiz, I noticed there's a little bit of Gryffindor love, but a small spattering. I feel like the number of Gryffindors among the Harry Potter community and people who kind of love and care for the books has declined over the last 10 or how many years. When I was sort of a kid and all the books were coming out, we were reading it, everyone was like, oh, I'm a Gryffindor, I'm a Gryffindor, I'm a Gryffindor. Now everyone's like, I'm not a Gryffindor, look at all the Slytherins. Do you know what I mean? There's a Hufflepuff. It's like, but I kind of, this is one of the things I find really, really cool about the way people's relationships with the books and the world of the books has evolved. I think at first everyone kind of went, oh, I want to be like Harry, Ron and Hermione, do you know what I mean? And with time, as people have engaged with the world beyond just the story of the protagonists, you realise that world is so rich, you know, it's so full and there's so much in it, and yes, we see it pretty much through Harry's eyes, but that doesn't mean there aren't other ways of looking at the story. So I always love it when people are like, I'm a Ravenclaw, because we've got a Ravenclaw in there somewhere. Shout out, props. I had a friend at university, well, a very good friend of mine still, who always sort of liked to talk about Harry Potter houses, and he would always sort of say, in the books, essentially, the Gryffindor are like good, but a bit cool. Hufflepuff are like good, but a bit square. And like, Slytherin are evil, and Ravenclaw are just like, meh. But he sort of expanded this, and he was like, I've decided that Ravenclaw is like the hips, like the cool kids at university. They're like the cool ones they're a bit too cool and ironic to like be good. They're a bit less try-hard, and they're probably just sitting there listening to like electronic dance music, do you know what I mean? And they're like Ravenclaw common room and sitting around just like, I don't know, talking about Kierkegaard or something, you know. I think they're probably just too cool for school. But anyway, I was just a boring Gryffindor, so, but I'm proud of that.
Gryffindors are not boring, by the way.
Ah, thank you very much. Points for you too.
Thanks for asking.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello. We all know you best as Dean Thomas and Baz, but the two characters are quite different from each other, and my question is, after playing Dean Thomas for so many years, did you have any difficulties in getting into the right mindset for portraying Baz in How to Get Away with Murder?
No, not really. Not least because there was a long time between them, you know. I think when I started doing How to Get Away with Murder, I was 25. I was 21, I think, when I finished Harry Potter, so I mean, 4 years had passed, and I played many other parts in that time. But also, you know, and I'm sure every actor has a different experience with this, but playing a part and spending a long time with a character could be a very intimate thing, and it can sort of stay with you in various kind of ways, not to be too like, oh, I couldn't get out of character, you know. I'm not trying to be a dick, but you know, sometimes it's like reading a book, right? You read a book and you can read someone else's story and you get lost in it, and sometimes that can reflect to you things about yourself, and in that exchange, I think that's one of the things I love about art. It's an exchange, it's a dialogue. You know, you can sit in the audience at a theatre and watch a play, and you don't say anything, but actually you're in dialogue with the piece of work. Same when you go to a gallery, same when you read a book or watch a film, whatever it is. And so that dialogue is a very lively one, often, I think, between an actor and the part that they're playing. And so it can throw up things about yourself. You go, oh, I'm a bit like that, or I'm not like that, or oh, I'd never really thought of that, but that's crystallized something in me about how I feel about something. So, you know, they can affect you, you can be affected in all sorts of ways. But I think often, despite that, one of my main things is the minute I finish playing a part, I want to do something else. Do you know what I mean? I think that's one of the joys of being an actor. You get to play different different parts, different characters, tell different kind of stories with different genres in different media. You know, whether you're doing a play or a film or a television show or a radio play, whatever it is. So I love the variety of it. So it's rare that I finish a thing and I'm like, oh, how am I going to do something different? I finish it and I'm like, great, I want to do something different, you know? So, no, I think that's one of the joys to getting to play different kinds of characters.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi. I'm here today as Vanellope von Schweetz from the movie Wreck-It Ralph, and
From the movie what, sorry?
Wreck-It Ralph, Disney movie.
Wreck-It Ralph?
Yeah.
I know about Wreck-It Ralph. I've never seen it.
So
I bet, is it a Pixar movie? No. Have I said, is that like Danger?
Disney.
I
don't think it's Pixar.
Has that become a thing? Anyone? Disney Pixar? No? Anyway, I'm wrong. Anyway, Wreck-It Ralph, I know.
Anyways, the reason I'm
Yes.
pointing this out is because she's from a land of candy.
Oh.
So my question to you is, what would be your first choice of sweets from Honeydukes?
My first choice of sweets for what?
Honeydukes. The
From
Harry Potter
Honeydukes?
candy
Oh
store.
gosh. God, I don't know. I'm trying to think of ones, you know, because the ones I can think of, I'm like, nah, I wouldn't so much want to try them. Is there like an exploding one? Have I made that up?
I think so, yeah.
I sort of imagine, maybe I've made this up, but you know, Honeydukes must have more sweets in it than are listed in the book, right? I'm sort of, you know, popping candy, when you put it in your mouth and it sort of goes, and it's sort of little explosions. Sort of imagine a more extreme version of that. I think I'd be up for that. That would be kind of exciting. How's that? What's yours?
Something chocolate.
Something chocolate. Yeah. Just a chocolate frog. Just a box that I was just like, not a chocolate frog. That's fair enough. I respect it. If that's what you're into, that's cool. Thank you. Hello.
My question is, what made you interested in the dark storyline of How to Get Away with Murder?
Unemployment. I mean, I'm joking and not joking. Truthfully, I wasn't actually unemployed. When I went on to How to Get Away with Murder, I had just been doing a Shakespeare play called Coriolanus, which is also a bit of a dark story. It's quite an obscure one. But you know, one of the things I got from my dad, who's an actor, he said, I've never had a year of my life that I've worked the whole year through. Unemployment is part of being an actor. You know, you go through periods where you're not working, even if you've got a job coming, but it's in 4 months. You know, or sometimes you've got a job and it's all good to go and the money's fallen through and the film's not going to get made or whatever it is. So, you know, especially at that, because that job really changed my career, How to Get Away with Murder. You know, I was excited about the possibility that I would finish that job and go to another job. Because the year before I had a big period of unemployment. I did a season at the National Theatre in London, and I remember thinking, I've worked at the National, now I'm going, that's like a stamp of approval. And after I finished at the National, I had, I think about 11 months till the next play I did. And in the middle of that period, about 5.5 months into that period, I did 5 days on a show called Mount Pleasant, and 5 days on an episode of Sherlock, the Benedict Cumberbatch show. And that was it. And that was all in the same month. So I'd been like, I was climbing the walls, you know, I was living with my parents and I was sort of, you know, I was all right for money, so I was very fortunate. Many actors don't have that luxury. But you know, I do what I do for a living, first and foremost because I love it and I want to be doing it, so I found that really difficult. So the first thing was, here's a script, I'm going to audition for it. I wasn't sitting there being like, no, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this. But that said, that pilot episode, I thought, for How to Get Away with Murder was so good. I'm talking about the script. The script came through and I was like, this is a brilliant premise, it's a brilliant idea. For anyone who doesn't know it, the basic idea of the show is that you see these law students who turn up at law school, sort of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and excited for their future. And then you see them 4 months later, and they're disposing of a body. And so the big question is, how did these people get to there? And that's kind of the structure of the initial series, as those two timelines come together. It's just, I just thought it was such a brilliant structural idea. It was exciting. Also, as I kind of said, I don't need everyone to be likable. I kind of want to, you know, I think a lot of good drama comes from people. It's hard to have good drama if everyone behaves well, right? So here are some people getting rid of a body. Here are some ethically, morally questionable things going on. That makes for interesting drama. That creates tension and that creates stakes. So yes, unemployment was important, but also not to be too flippant. No, it's not entirely flippant. There is a lot of truth in it. I did think this is a really brilliant story, and it's a great idea, and shooting that pilot was such an enjoyable experience. So I was really excited for it. So I was lucky, you know, because the next job that could have saved me unemployment could have been, I don't know, something much less interesting. So yeah, that was what it was. Thank you. Thanks for the question. Hello.
I was wondering, what was your favorite film location during Harry Potter?
My favourite film location? I used to love locations. So in the early films, to create all those places in Hogwarts, for the most part what we do is we would go to different parts of the UK to a castle, like Alnwick Castle, which is in the north and east of England, or Gloucester Cathedral, or Durham Cathedral. And we'd take little bits of these old historic buildings, and you know, in the edit, it would come together to make Hogwarts. In the later films, what they did, when they realised that maybe it was a bit complicated to take, you know, 40 plus children to different parts of the country, put them all up in the same hotel, where essentially all we would do is run around knocking on people's doors and just being a nuisance. They thought, let's just build everything. So they pretty much recreated most of the sets that we had been to on location at the studio, which is an amazing kind of feat of architecture, of artistry and craftsmanship. But it did mean we didn't get to travel, or I didn't. Dan, Rupert and Emma would, I think, always do some shooting in Scotland, and there was always bits, but there were much fewer locations for the likes of me. I think my favourite location, one of the most exciting ones was Alnwick Castle, because that flying lesson in the first film, where, you know, Neville ends up getting on a broomstick, doesn't he, and losing control and flying away, and Harry catches the Remembrall and all the rest of it. That was one of the first things we shot. So I remember that really fondly, because it was just, we were all away together, and we were all just excited and messing around and having a good time. But there were lots of beautiful ones. I remember Gloucester Cathedral was really beautiful, Durham Cathedral, a lot of cathedrals. But yeah, they're some of the ones that pop out. Thank you. Hello.
Was it hard to learn the American accent for How to Get Away with Murder?
Yes. As I kind of said as an answer to someone else's question about what I take from a joke shop, something that I can do people's accents. Some people are very good at accents, I think. Some people could just hear something once and recreate it. I am not that person. I had to do so much work on the accent, and whenever I have to do, in a way it's like speaking a language. You maybe put some work in to learn a second language, and then maybe the third language is a bit easier. Maybe you sort of start to understand, even when the languages are completely different, how language is formed, and you get used to your brain making connections outside of the way that your language is structured. I think something similar happens with accents, so I'm getting better at accents, but I'm not a mimic. I'm not someone who could just do it. I have to put the work in, but if I do, I think I'm all right. But that American accent, I'd never worked in an American accent before. Even at university, no, I'd never done it. And I just remember thinking I wasn't going to get the part in How to Get Away with Murder, because I was like, it's an American TV show, that's going to be shot in America, made with and for Americans, they'll just cast an American actor, not some kid from London who's never done the accent before. So I was so determined to get it right and do the work. So I worked with a dialect coach in London before I went over. I worked with a dialect coach in Philadelphia where we shot the pilot, where the series was set. I worked with a dialect coach in LA, who was brilliant. And I put a lot of work in it. I would go to sleep in America when we were shooting the pilot, listening to the radio. So I would just be hearing the accent all the time. And the other thing was that I spoke in the accent the whole time I was there. Because I didn't want to have this awkward moment where I was like, now I'm going to start doing it. So I thought, but the problem was, everyone knew I was English and I arrived. And I thought, maybe I'll just speak in the accent from the moment that I arrived there. But the first person I saw was an actor called Matt McGorry, a big friend of mine he plays Asher. He's a lovely human being, a great actor, very, very funny in the show as well as brilliant. And I just saw him and I was thinking, I'm going to speak in an American accent, I'm going to speak in an American accent. And I just went, hello, hello. I sort of sounded like the Queen or King Charles or something like that. Because I just thought, I can't do it, it's too awkward. I've Googled him, he must know. I mean, I don't know. So I spent 2 days speaking like myself, and then one morning I kind of steeled myself, and I spoke to my ex-girlfriend, who I was with at the time, and I was like, oh God, this accent thing. She said, if it's going to help you, do it, however awkward it is. And I was like, she's completely right. And she sort of gave me that bit of support. I was like, I'm going to do it. And I walked down to breakfast, and I said, hi everyone, I'm now talking like that. I'm not doing it now, but I was like, I'm now going to do this. And I spoke in that accent for the rest of the time we were shooting, to the point that when we would finish a season of How to Get Away, I mean, I would do it for 7 months of the year. I would come home for Christmas and I'd still be speaking in the accent. Friends of mine didn't like that, but that's what I felt I had to do it well. And then when I would stop doing the accent at the end of the season, people who I'd been working with for 7 months and by the end of it for years would go, you sound completely different. That is utterly bizarre, because you know they never got a chance to hear it. So anyway, it took a lot of hard work. So yes, it was hard. Thank you.
All right. Hello, Alfred. We only have 4 minutes left. 3 questions.
4 minutes left. 3 questions. 4 questions. No, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So 1 minute per question.
Okay, I'll be quick. Hello.
Hi. My question is, what movie of the Harry Potter series? Well, it sounds really weird hearing myself, but okay. What movie did you prefer to watch?
My favourite one, I think, was the last one, because of the Snape storyline. Because you get to kind of discover what's been going on with the character that became my favourite character at that moment. So I think that is my favourite one. It's brilliant. What's your favourite?
I really like the last 2 movies because there's a lot of action, but I also love the first one because it's a lot of magic. But I love every movie. So.
It's hard to choose, isn't it? Okay. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi. What is your favorite season in How to Get Away with Murder?
What's my favourite
season?
Season? Oh, the first one. The first one. I think the first season is the best one. I mean, the idea had been, I imagine, had sat with Pete, the showrunner, Pete Nowell, for a long time, and we got a long, we shot the pilot in 3 weeks. After that, we would shoot, that's a long time to shoot an episode of network television. After that, we would shoot episodes in like 9 to 10 days. The first and the last day, we'd be shooting also the previous episode and the next episode. So it all became more intense and more rushed. But I just think the premise, the idea of the first season, I mean, being English, television in the UK is very different to television in America. I remember thinking it would only be 1 season, and I was really laughed at by my friends on the show. I said, but what are we going to do? We can't just kill someone new every season. Perhaps I was naive, but I think that first one is really good. What's your favourite? It's so tightly structured, isn't it? It's one of those things you start creating loose ends and it gets harder to tie everything back together. I think they did a brilliant job to and you have to keep reinventing, but yeah, I think that first one has a tightness which is probably good. Thank you. Hello, and this is the last question. Hello.
When you watch Harry Potter movies, do you laugh at yourself or do you just ignore the fact that it's you on the screen?
Wait, sorry, do I want myself?
Yeah, if you watch Harry Potter movies, do you laugh at yourself or do you just ignore the fact that it's you on the screen?
I hate watching myself in Harry Potter or anything, but I do it because I sort of feel a vague responsibility, and also I want to know how it came across and if it worked, and you know, I suppose it's part of learning as an actor. I think it's important to watch it back, but I don't enjoy it, and so I actually have not seen any of the Harry Potter films since the premieres. I tell a lie. I think maybe when I was like 23 or something, the second one was on TV at Christmas, and I watched maybe like half an hour or 35 or 40 minutes of it. But yeah, I don't like watching myself.
Thank you. All right, that was all we had time for. Give it up for Alfred!
Thank you all very much. I appreciate your questions. Thank you for coming, and have a nice day. Have a nice weekend. Thank you. Thanks for being lovely.